Hello everyone, back to you in today's video. Going to have a look at the weather next week, 10 days across the United States. And yeah, it's Wednesday, so it's a USA forecast day. We do these every Wednesday on YouTube. And here we go, so I'll get on that for you very shortly. We're going to be live streaming from 6 o'clock. We're going to have our Wednesday evening live stream, so we'll check in, see how we're all doing. And with that one, we're going to be live streaming the 10 to 14 day update for the UK and for Northern Europe as well. So that will be coming up for you around or just after 6 o'clock this evening. And we'll run it for an hour until 7, so I'll see you live then. Now, these USA forecasts are YouTube exclusive, so if you want to be notified when we release these, then all you need to do is subscribe to the channel, click all notifications, and then you'll be notified by YouTube when we release our USA forecast. Thank you so much, everybody, for doing that. Right, okay, so begin with what is now, I think that is tropical depression, tropical depression, Iota, and this is moving into the western part of Central America. So a couple of days ago, this is a Category 5 hurricane in the Caribbean. It's moved through Central America, and of course it's lost its energy as it's lost lost the energy from the warm waters of the tropical Atlantic and the Caribbean. And now it is sitting there over Central America. So it's currently giving maximum sustained winds of 35 miles per hour with a minimum central pressure of 1,007 millibars. And it's moving west-southwest at 13 miles per hour. So let's see what's forecast happen with this then. So it's nearly done with. Now it's going to go post-tropical later today as it moves out into the Pacific Ocean. And then it looks as though that is pretty much the end of this phenomenal, what was a phenomenal storm, Iota. Key message with this is still life-threatening flash flooding and river flooding is expected through to Thursday across portions of Central America due to heavy rainfall from Iota. Flooding and mudslides across portions of Honduras, Nicaragua and Guatemala could be exacerbated by saturated soils in place, resulting in significant to potentially catastrophic impact. So although the storm itself is pretty much done with as it moves into the Pacific Ocean through the rest of today, there is still going to be very severe impacts from this for the next few hours until tomorrow. Otherwise, there's nothing else to be seen across the tropical Atlantic, the Gulf of Mexico, or the Caribbean. Let's see what the GFS is forecasting. So this is like the view of the Atlantic, in particular the tropical Atlantic, this is tropicaltidbits.com. There's Iota just there. Of course, that area of low pressure, that area of low across Central America. So that gets moved off into the Pacific Ocean. Look there, by tomorrow it's out into the Pacific Ocean where it sort of dies a death. So we're looking into this sort of area to see where we get any more disruptions. We are very, very late in the season now. We were into the second half of November. Season should be winding down, but this is the area we're looking at. See whether we get any more, the GFS forecast, any more developments. Let's see what happens over the next couple of weeks then. So there's something happening just there. That looks like it's an area of low pressure somewhere close to the Azores. That might be like a subtropical sort of feature, but in the tropics itself, tropical Atlantic itself, it looks like things are pretty quiet over the next few days. Looks like there's something getting going there, so that's like very far south Mexico, very far south of America and into Mexico. A little bit of a low pressure area there, but it doesn't look like GFS wants to develop that too much. Something around here in the Caribbean, but again, it doesn't look like GFS is developing that all that much. So it looks like it's a little bit quieter over the next week or so. We're moving up to day 10 now. And we have got something developing just here. Just there in the tropical Atlantic. This is on the 1st of December. That'll be really late to get a tropical storm. But it looks like the GFS is developing something there for the opening days of December. And because, I mean, that's very, very late, but because it's been such a really active season, it's not totally impossible that we might get a very, very late tropical storm and or hurricane. In the 2005 season, which up to, like, this year was the record-breaking season. That had a hurricane, I think, like at the end of December and into the early part of January, even. So I mean, that was incredible. We probably won't repeat that this year, but certainly early December, you can't rule out the chance of another development. So the GWF is definitely playing with something developing there. It doesn't impact America, and it just stays out in the tropical Atlantic. But yeah, the GWF is sort of playing around with something there through the early part of December. Otherwise, it looks like things are going a little bit quieter now in the wake of the latest storm. So maybe things are going to start going a little bit quieter, as you'd expect, of course, this late in the season. So keep close eye on that, of course, especially that development perhaps in early December. Right, so this is how the 500 millibar height on flow chart's looking from Penn State University for next week, 10 days for North America. We've got the ECMWF on the left. The GFS is over on the right. So 500 millibars is now at high pressure, low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream. So the ECM, it looks like there's a little bit of a dip in the jet stream with the ECM in the 7 to 10 day time frame. Something a little bit like that. However, overall, I think it's pretty mild sort of week to 10 days coming up through many parts of the states. We see that even more clearly on the GFS, which has this ridge through the central and western states. Again, cold areas up here, up into Canada with the jet stream, just sort of forcing its way down at times in the extreme north and northeast, but generally most parts of states on the mild side of the jet and in those westerly winds. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles the next couple of weeks. We're at Boston, in the very far northeast today, Boston, Massachusetts. So the red line is a 30-year upper air temperature average for Boston. It's actually really quite cold at the moment, but from here on in, temperature is going to be lifting up. We're going to go a lot milder through the rest of this week into the weekend and into early next week as well. Generally milder average, also a little bit zonal actually. So there are warmer and cooler sectors alternating with one another. Yes, Northern America also gets zonality. It's not just here in the UK and across Northern Europe, but we have zonal sine waves sometimes. So yeah, pretty zonal, but generally quite mild once today, and I suppose tomorrow it's out of the way. Maybe as going to the opening days of December, a bit of a cold snap coming through there, perhaps a little bit of a colder interlude developing maybe through the early part of December. Of course, that's extended rain stuff. Precipitation wise, so a lot of dry weather over the next sort of 5-6 days. Plenty of dry weather coming up. Of course, we're starting cold and we're going to see the temperature lifting up. It will take a while to warm things up on the surface, I suppose, under high pressure. Beyond that, it looks a bit more unsettled through here. That's where it's generally quite mild. And then as we go to the extended range, there are a few more precipitation spikes then. And of course, as it gets colder, perhaps into early December, that precipitation could be snow, but that is a very long way off, of course. Temperature anomalies from the 18th to 26th of November, looking very mild through many parts of America, particularly the central northern states up here. Exceptionally mild there, talking about like 20 Fahrenheit above average. Remember, in the USA, they still use Fahrenheit rather than Celsius or centigrade. It's a little bit cold in the far northwest, as it often is, a little bit cooler up there towards the Pacific Northwest. However, generally it looks very mild in the week ahead across most parts of America. Precipitation anomalies looking like this. Many parts of the states are dry. It's wetter in the extreme northwest. Of course, some of that could be snow if it's quite cold. A little bit wetter through some of these central midwestern states as well. But overall, it's quite a mild and dry scene, especially so for these more southern and eastern parts of America. This is how the GFS is looking today. So this is a ridge of high pressure across the east of the states, and on the northern eastern side of the ridge, it is still cold. We're still bringing in the air from Canada, as we saw on that ensemble graph for Boston. At the moment, it is pretty cold in this northeastern corner. But of course, as the ridge moves in that direction, then the milder air from the south is going to start pushing into the far northeast as well. And overall, it's quite a mild scene across many parts of America today. These are the upper air temperatures for today. So yeah, you can see that it is cold in the northeast, like this extreme northeastern corner looks cold there. Conversely, though, very mild out in the central part of the Midwest. Look at that, really significantly above average. Near normal temperatures out towards the northwest. Many southern parts of the states generally on the warm or mild side. Now, by tomorrow, that ridge is moving over onto the eastern seaboard, and that starts to pull up these much milder southerly to southwesterly winds into the north and into the northeast. So temperatures then will start to lift up. By the time you get through to Friday, most parts of the states are looking mild. Then all of the cold air has sort of been forced back into extreme north, and of course up into Canada, where it'll be very cold up there. The cold air will lurk across much of Canada, but most parts of the states bring the air up from the south, and so yes, it's going to be pretty mild through most parts of the states, even into the northeast, by the time you get through to the end of the week. That's how we'll just go into the weekend. So again, quite a mild scene, really through most parts of America. A little bit more unsettled through these Midwestern states, just a little bit colder around the Great Lakes, perhaps as some cold air tries to push its way in from Canada. But again, generally, most of that cold air is being sort of receded and fended off through the weekend. So the upper air temperatures will get through into Monday. So, I mean, it's a little bit cold around the Great Lakes in the far north, but no more than you expect at this time of year. We have got a big cold pool lurking across Canada, as you would expect, but for the time being, that's where it remains. Most parts of America looking generally quite mild through the early part of next week. Into middle next week, another little trough starts to dig in from the northwest, so that's trying to push colder air in from the north. That could bring a swipe of colder air into the extreme north to northeast, but again, most parts of America seeing quite a lot of mild weather through to the middle of next week, and even in the second half next week as well. That's how the upper air temperatures look. So again, have got that very cold pool of air sitting just to the north of the states in Canada. Deep cold up there, brutal cold, but only just sort of made into extreme northern states. And really, most parts of America are still looking mild. Mild in the east, warm in the south. The west, I haven't talked about west all that much in this video so far, but still looking pretty mild across many west states. Even the northwest looks quite mild, actually, by the time we get through to Friday. So mild is ruling the roost, I think, across many parts of America up to the end of November. Now, we're at day 10. A little bit of a swipe of colder air going to the extreme northeast again around day 10. There's the upper air temperatures showing that deep cold pool just beginning to force its way into these extreme northeastern states and possibly getting towards sort of New York area. But otherwise, once again, it's mild scene, especially so for these central and western states with upper air temperatures looking significantly above average. Of course, because it's continental climate, even if the upper air temperatures are above average, it could be quite cold with frost and that sort of thing at night. But the deep cold pool from Canada that will bring severe cold and snow, generally that's being kept at bay up to the end of November, except for the extreme northeast corner there, perhaps. In more extended range with this GFS run, it generally stays quite mild as well. There's the upper air temperatures, for example, on the last day of November. Again, from the west coast to the east coast, most parts of the states have above average upper air temperatures. Into more extended range, again, another push of cold air just trying to come out of Canada in the extreme north to northeast, but really being fended off again. That's how the upper air temperatures look as far as we get to with the GFS, which is to the 4th of December. And overall, it is a mild scene through most parts of states. Even then, cold air is being kept at bay into Canada. So at the moment, it looks like things are going to be pretty mild, really, for most parts of America. Let's have a look at the ECMWF. This is how the ECM is looking then. So this ridge does have some quite cold air with it at the moment in the northeast, but these milder southwesterly winds will be sort of flooding in across the north as we go through the second half of the week. So yeah, this is Friday. You can see where the air is originating from down here. like Texas, Mexico, and pushing northwards into the northeastern states. That ridge moves over onto the eastern side of America. So becoming much milder for most parts of states over the second half week. That's how the upper air temperature for Saturday. So yeah, it is a bit colder in the extreme north. Got some of that cold out from Canada, just flirting with the extreme sort of northern border, but otherwise it's a mild scene, above average temperatures really for most parts of America over the weekend, certainly above average upper air temperatures. Into next week, generally staying quite mild again. There could be a little bit of cold air coming to the far north and northeast with this ridge of high pressure through the Midwest. So on the sort of eastern side of that, it could be a little bit colder. Out in the west, again, quite mild through many of those western states as well. And then heading up towards daytime, there's very little change, really. So there will be areas of low pressure that bring some spells of rain at times. But generally, you can see from the upper air temperatures at daytime that we are talking about a lot of mild weather. Actually quite warm in this southern and southeastern corner. Above average, mild out in the west, really. Anything cold is sort of flirting with the extreme north and that Canadian border, and possibly to the far northeast. But that looks like a mild upper air temperature forecast for day 10 from the Euro today. This is how CFSV2 is looking for the next 4 weeks. And finally, so these are 500 millibar heights bring down into week periods. The first week period takes from the 17th to 23rd of November. The coming week has this ridge through these sort of central and eastern areas. That brings those milder temperatures northwards. Trough low pressure out to the northwest keeps the far northwest a little bit colder. With jet stream doing something a bit like that. Most of the states look quite mild in the week ahead. Week 2 is going to be the 24th to the 30th of November, with again low pressure out to the northwest, high pressure through the southern and eastern states, jet stream sort of pushing northwards a little bit like that. So much of south and east should be mild or very mild. It's a little bit colder and more unsettled out to the northwest, with trough low pressure on that northwestern coast. Week 3, very little change really. This is the 1st through to the 7th of December. No real change. Ridge over on the eastern side of the states. Trough of low pressure out to the northwest. The flow and the jets going something a little bit like that. And much of the east looking generally mild or very mild, and the Midwest too. And that's week 4, which is the 8th through to 14th of December. So this is a very prolonged mild spell of weather, if this is right. High pressure again sitting in the east, in the northeast. Trough low pressure out to the northwest, the flow and the jet. Something a little bit like that. It means that for much of the Midwest and the east, it's still generally quite mild. But west is more unsettled and potentially a bit colder, I think. Temperature anomalies in week ahead, 17th, 23rd of November. You see the cold air up across Canada. So if anyone's watching from Canada, it's going to be really cold in the week ahead. But for most of the states, looking very mild in the week ahead. Just this far Pacific West Coast looking a little bit cooler through there. But overall, it's a mild scene through much of the states in the week ahead. Some of that cold around it just sort of forces its way into extreme northern states. But generally, the cold is being kept at bay in week ahead. Week 2, which is going to be 24th to 30th of November. Again, mild or very mild scene, really, from west coast right over to the east coast. Week 3, look at this, exceptionally mild. It's the first week of December, absolutely exceptionally mild, particularly through the Midwest and the East, but even out on the West Coast, it's looking pretty mild there. So nowhere in America predicted to have anything colder than average in the first week of December. And even into Canada, we've got these exceptionally mild temperatures extending northwards as well. Of course, you're going to have a La Nina winters, so La Nina winters do tend to be associated with mild winters across many parts of America. Not always, some of them can be cold, like 95, 96 was La Nina winter. That's a very, very cold winter for northern and eastern and northeast parts of America. But generally, La Nina winters, especially if they're like moderate or strong, will be mild for America. So maybe it's not a surprise if this winter was to turn out mild across much of the states. This is week 4, 8th to the 14th of December, and that one is also looking very, very mild as well. really early days on the winter, of course. That only gets you like 2 weeks into the winter overall. Precipitation anomalies, finally for America. So week 1, 17th, 23rd of December. So a little bit unsettled across these Midwestern states. Dry in the east, of course, we've got a ridge of high pressure, and quite wet out in the northwest. So it's a bit cold in the northwest, some of that could be snow, of course. We go through to week 2. 24th to 30th of December. Again, looks very dry in the southeast and the east. Dry through the central midwestern states as well. A little bit more unsettled in the far northeast and also in the northwest and the west. Week 3 is going to be the 1st and 7th of December. Wetter than average of about trough of low pressure on the west coast. So from California right way up to, like Seattle, Washington state. It looks generally wetter than average up there. The midwestern states generally on the dry than average side, a little bit more unsettled perhaps in that northeastern corner. Many of the southern states looking quite dry too. And then lastly, week 4, which is the 8th to the 14th of December. Still wet around this west coast. So, very significant and useful rains coming up for the west coast, if that's right. Many southern states largely dry on average, near normal precipitation elsewhere. So it looks like it's going to be pretty mild, for the next couple of weeks across many parts of America. There will be little cold incursions at times from the north. Got one of those in the far northeast at the moment. Of course, it is cold today in the northeast. Let's not forget that. So there will be little cold incursions from Canada in the next couple of weeks, but overall looks like it's going to be pretty mild for the next week or two, and the wait for like really severe cold and those brutal northerly winds from Canada, the wait for that goes on for the time being. Generally a mild start to winter of 2020-21, much of states by a little bit. And of course, with the wider picture is that we have still got to keep an eye on what's happening in the tropics, because it's been such a very, very busy and big season. It's not impossible that we could get a very, very late tropical storm and or hurricane developing even into December this year. So all eyes will remain focused on the Caribbean, on the Gulf of Mexico, and the tropical Atlantic as well. Okay, so we'll do another USA forecast for you next Wednesday. Maybe we'll have some signs of winter by then. If you enjoyed this USA forecast, please give us a like. Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. And we'll be back with your USA forecast next Wednesday. We've got our live stream coming up from 6 o'clock tonight. We're live streaming the 10 to 14 day update for the UK and for Northern Europe as well. That will be coming up for you tonight or this evening from 6 o'clock. So I shall see you then live for this one. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.